Hello. Happy Sunday, Raymond fans. Let's adjust this mic. One there. That should be good right there. How do I sound in Plymouth, England? Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sunday. Hello. Hello, Gil. Today is London out from under today? Is that am I remembering that correctly? Hello, Joanna. Hello. Yes, is England relieved from their suffering? Hello, Leo in Toronto. I hope I sound good. So I'm looking forward to, let me adjust this camera a little bit. There we go. I'm looking forward to answering a bunch of questions. Hello, let's say hello to a couple of people. Hello, Marianne. Yes, good. Hello, Bobby and Hawaii. Hello, Australia. Hello. Tomorrow, Gil, is when you guys are free from restrictions. That's awesome. Hello, Heidi in Ireland. Yes, tomorrow, the 19th. Oh, that's awesome. Hello, Barbara. Barbara, are you from Bayonne and still currently residing there? Hello, everybody who is getting this notification. I am not Raymond. I am Tom Caltabiano. I was a writer on Everybody Loves Raymond, and we do this every week to bring a little bit of Raymond news and insight to all of our Raymond fans. Yes, it's very hot. It's 94 degrees where I sit today, and it's also, it was last night at midnight, we in Los Angeles went back to all masks, whether you're vaccinated or not, if you go inside any place. Okay. So hello, yes. Hello, Harrison, New York. Harrison, New York. Where is Harrison? Is that in Westchester? Is that by Croton on the Hudson, that area? All right, good to see all of you guys. Yes, very hot in England, very sunny. And you got sunburn. Yes, you. Hello, Cousin Steve. Hello, Ryan Rosegarten. Why is that name familiar to everybody? Ryan, I have pictures of you. You should come on and talk about being a small boy while the show was going. All right, so last week we had Lisa Helfrich Jackson, who visited, and I knew that even though she said that she would have very few memories or have trouble remembering, she not only remembered so much, but she called me afterwards. She goes, I forgot to tell this, and this other thing. So Lisa will be back on. So if you guys had any questions or anything that was unclear, now if you did watch last week, Lisa talked about producing, working on the O.J. Simpson series called First and 10, and then working with Ryan O'Neill and Farrah Fawcett and a few other things before going to Everybody Loves Raymond. But Lisa, of all the people, Lisa really does know more as far as producing the show than anybody on the planet. Everything had to go through her. And she now works at Warner Brothers, and she covers something like 35 different shows. But Lisa will be back on. And I know I promised you guys this. I went to Ricky's room, saw George White, who you all enjoyed listening to. George White was the writer's PA, production assistant. And Lisa joined. So I will post, if you want, give me some thumbs up, some hearts, and I will post a picture of me and Lisa and George in Ricky's room, which, if you guys missed it, that is a bar inside of somebody's house. All right, and that guy's name is George White. Leo, Tom, with all your artifacts from ELR, ever considered auctioning them off to ELR fans to raise money for charity? What makes you think, Leo, that I'm such a generous person as to give that to charity. The truth is, yes and no, only because I don't have a ton of art. I have a ton of scripts, but I don't have many things. I have the bread box that is over Frank and Marie's refrigerator. I think it's on top of the refrigerator. It's a big brown box, and I have a few other things. And I don't know if I told this story, but it is very interesting about props. So yes, Leo, there is. I actually know that the Frank and Marie's couch. I know there is a chance that somebody might want to auction that off. So the story about props, sorry, I'm scrolling through. Yes, I will post pictures of Ricky's room, of me and George and Lisa. So a lot of props, like the sculpture, for example, they kept that around. So it wasn't like they got rid of that. Other stuff they got rid of. And I thought that a lot of the props were rented, which is true. So we think, and I'll talk to Donna Stamps, I think the big fork and spoon, okay, which is very iconic on the show, Lisa thinks that the reason they are different sizes, and this I need you guys to help me solve a mystery, I think because they're different sizes, it's because they weren't available to rent from the props house in between seasons. Now, Donna Stamps, who was responsible for that, she might have a different reason. She might say, oh, we decided to change it for some reason, which would be surprising. But here's the mystery that someone will be able to solve this. And thank you for whoever posted. I will write a thank you on the thing, on Instagram under the photo. But I posted a photo of Doris Roberts going to hug Ray. And it was indeed from the Say Uncle episode, which makes sense because I didn't post this picture, but there's a photo of Aaron Shore waving to the audience. And Ray, when he would warm up the audience, he would say, okay, he'd bring out the cast and he'd go, okay, this week's script, which I grabbed a couple of scripts just for, so I think, is that reading backwards or front way? So this is for Halloween candy. This is a shooting script, okay? This is a yellow script. And what does it say on front? Because it's backwards. Yeah. So shooting script, it says here. If it's backwards, you'll have to trust me. And this is Ashley Steuer. Ashley was in the wardrobe department. So when I said in the past that I have all the scripts from the wardrobe department, so this is one of those scripts, and this is a yellow. So this is yellow, which means it's shooting day. And here is the very lovely Angelina. This is a post. This is a Polaroid that's stapled to the inside of every single page. So again, this is a yellow script, and this because there was some confusion, a little bit of confusion. Oh, there's a cute picture of Patty. Let's see if I can show this without glare. That's Patty in, I guess, her Halloween outfit. You guys would know better than me. And notes from wardrobe on each thing. So there's Patty in bed with notes written underneath on the Polaroid. And if it is it backwards, you guys? I assume it is. So there's notes from them. So just let me before I go off point. When you see a yellow script, that's shoot day. When there's a rehearsal, like I posted that photo of that fisheye lens during Robert's Rodeo. That's earlier in the day. So that's about, I want to say maybe 1 in the afternoon or 11 a.m. I can't remember how early it is in the day. But most people, and this will be a tell, when you see Doris Roberts in curlers, that's early on show day. And the reason that Sherry Shepherd isn't in her costume is because there was no reason to be in their costume. I think Robert in that photo where he's in the hospital bed and he's wearing a hospital gown, there was a reason, whatever it was, he was in costume. So don't let that throw you when you see a photo and you're like, hey, they're not in costume. It's still show day. It's just earlier on show day because those are very long days. So let's see. Let's scroll back a little. I feel like I didn't finish my point before. Yellow scripts the day of. Let me scroll back. Yes, here we go. Oh no, Nemo would never sell. Yes. All right, here we go. Hello, Karen. Have we ever thought of doing another book to accompany an ELR reunion like the Friends earlier this year to capture all the seasons? Well, so the Everybody Loves Raymond book, which I also have right here. Don't usually have this, but so for those of you who don't know, this is the Everybody Loves Raymond, our family album book, forward by Norman Lear, photos by me. The reason that isn't a complete book is because they thought they were going to stop the show at the end of season 8, not knowing they'd do a season 9. When you do a book, you have to send it for publishing so far in advance. So that's why, for those of you that have bought the book, and I make no money from the sale of the book, unfortunately, when you get it, it's a phenomenal book. We put a crazy amount of work into it. It's really a great inside, and the fact that Phil and Ray are the ones that really, wrote the their personal thoughts about photos really makes it ideal. The reason it's not finished is for that reason. We did a season 9 not expecting to do a season 9. And if you publish a book after a show's off the air, it's much tougher. So, much tougher to sell. So, yes, the answer is I would love to complete that book, which we can do now. HBO still, I believe, has the rights to Everybody's Raymond, so it might be tricky there. But yes, it would be great to put a follow-up book, and publishing, and everything has changed so much since that was published. So when that was published, there was no Instagram, there was no way to reach your audience. I don't think Twitter existed. Facebook was just in its genesis. So it would have a much easier way of getting the word out, just like talking to you guys here. So let's see this. Scrolling back. Karen, she was an air hostess. Yes, so here's the mystery that you guys can solve. So Lisa told a story last time about Phil wanting to make sure that the big fork and spoon were in the exact same position throughout the series, so that when Marie pulls the fork and spoon down and you see the outline of years of grease and smoke and cooking, that it made sense because it couldn't have moved around. Lisa said a fan at that point wrote in and said at one point they were switched, but if anybody watching knows or can name an episode where the fork and spoon are in a different position, and I think the spoon is on the right, I don't remember, let me know. I'll post a picture, but if you can find that episode, that would be awesome. And so, yeah, and going back to that, thanks again for the Say Uncle episode. Ray was playing golf in that photo, so it could have been a lot. Hello. Hi, Tom. Excellent way to start. When do we get to have the Real Wives and Patty 2 and the kids? So, great question. So, by coincidence, I talked to the Real Wives last night, and they are very happy to come on. So I just have to schedule it. And also, I talked to Lou Schneider last night, who played Snaps, who was the wedding photographer, and also wrote that episode. And he told me the story, but I said, Lou, please come on. And his wife said, yes, why don't you have Lou on? And I said, because he's not on Instagram. So Lou Schneider will be coming on using someone else's Instagram account very shortly. So we'll get the story of that. Scrolling through, here we go. Yes, so Karen, yes, to capture all the seasons, yes. How old when you started to write the script, David? When I was a writer, yeah, I was in my early 30s. Let's see. The Fork and Spoon episode was on again last week. Yes, the Fork and Spoon. Yes, the baggage episode. So, hello, Heidi. Sorry, Heidi, you're in Iceland. Heidi Bloom, 19. Is a script written before the guest stars are cast, Or did you tell the guest, inform the script for the character? So the guest stars, and it always sounds so harsh when I'm saying it, but the script is always written beforehand. Never do you reach out to a guest star and say, hey, we're trying to do this, figure this out. So the actors have nothing to do with the writing. And it sounds severe, but that's just how it is. So having said that, Phil wanted to cast Georgia Engel. And so he's thinking of her in that character. Georgia Engel played Amy's mom, and Fred Willard played her father. So, yes, does Phil have that in mind when he's thinking about that character? Yes, and it also happens to be very similar personality-wise. She is very similar personality-wise to Monica's real mother. So, yes, I hope that answers the questions. Yeah, the guest stars very seldom. Like, I've heard maybe, if you guys have ever seen Glengarry Glen Ross, I think David Mamet wrote the part for Alec Baldwin for Alec Baldwin. Like, he had him specifically in mind. But I don't know of any, maybe I did talk to Jon Favreau, and he said in the movie that he did called Chef, if you ever see the movie Chef, he and Robert Downey Jr. kind of wrote that scene together. So in a movie, it's kind of different. But as far as a series, like, I don't know, and we can ask Fred Stoller when he's on Seinfeld, but almost never does an actor in any way get involved in the writing process because they're not booked. It's not their job. There's also union rules and stuff. So, yes, Marie's limp walk. Leo, great question. What was the genesis behind Marie's limp walk when she was disappointed with her boys? Great question. I don't know the answer. I will ask Phil if he even remembers. Tom, ELR is on in the morning on Channel 4 and every evening for 2 hours on Comedy Central. I watch all the time. That's awesome, Karen. That is great. Stand-up comedy, yes. My transition from stand-up comedy, what were the working hours like? Okay, great questions. Great questions. Bada bing, bada boom. Yes, so the real why. Okay, so I missed some of these questions. So I will announce when Anna Romano and Monica are on together. Patty Heaton, I will let you know, obviously. I want to get Patty and her husband, which would be great. Okay, so the transition from stand-up. So I think this, you can learn the art or the craft of sitcom writing. It's very hard to teach funny, being funny. So literally Phil used to make a joke, read a book, take a class about learning how to do something. So for Ray and I wrote the season one finale called Why Are We Here, which is not about an existential crisis, but it's about how they ended up in the house across the street from Frank and Marie. And at the time, Patty Heaton was pregnant in real life. So we thought, okay, we can use a flashback of her being pregnant and use her being pregnant. So that was the first script that Ray had written and I had written, and we wrote it together. So at that point, it's later in the season, you have the characters, voiced in your head of how they would behave. So the difference there is, when you're writing, you're getting into the head of every character and you're thinking, okay, what would they say? What would they say? Once you figure out what is happening in the scene, you think, okay, what would be, if I was a pregnant woman and have to break the news to Ray, what would that be like? So you're really going into the head of all those characters. When you're doing stand-up, it's you talking about a funny, your perception of something funny, and it's your voice. So it's a different animal other than being funny for a sitcom, that is. But if you go back even further, I think you'll find that the best sitcoms, the sitcoms you enjoy the most, are the ones where it really could be a drama. You're invested in those characters, and then you're just, for a sitcom, you're adding the comedy. when it's too not grounded in reality, it's tough to relate to a show, which is why Everybody's Raymond would be a very good drama, because you're invested in those characters and you want to see what would happen, etc. So, can we have Angelina, Tina Arninon? Karen wants to know. Yes, I will ask her. Heidi in Ireland. Yes, not Iceland. Yes, where are you? Okay, let me scroll up. Great questions. Ray throwing her against the fridge. The great episode so many times never gets boring. Yes. An air hostess is funny. Scrolling down, that episode was on last Friday. Let's see this. Yes. By the way, Leo, for the limp for Marie, I mean, it just feels like, from the outside, watching it, you're like, oh, anyway, I'm going to add to the guilt of, like, not only are you crushing my soul as the mother and you guys are ignoring me, but I also am slightly, I'm limping and also injured. Scrolling down. Transition to writing, yes. There we go. Answered that. Great. The Wives, okay. Yes, Windlepoons, you have the book. That's right. It's great. Where can you buy the book? You can buy the book, as far as I know, on eBay or Amazon. And I noticed it's weird. On Amazon, the price is going up a lot for the hardcover copy. Caesar was one of the players in Nemo's team. Yes, Noah. Noah Zvokos. Am I saying that correctly, Noah? You were watching the Season 1 episode, Captain Nemo, the other day. Were you one of the players on the Nemo's team? Yes. I was on the team along with Dave Attell, who's a comedian in New York, well-known comedian, Paul Lyons, Andy Kindler, who has been a guest on here, and we'll have him back again. Christina, when Comedy and Magic Club reopens, would you consider a show we could fill the place? Haha. Yes, absolutely. And the owner, so for those of you not near Hermosa Beach in California, there's a lot of props from Everett Raymond in the Hermosa Beach Comedy Magic Club. And the owner, Mike Lacey, is such a beloved guy. And Seinfeld, Chris Rock, every big name comedian performs there. Jay Leno performs there every Sunday. So in his club, on the left-hand side, if you're facing the stage, is Seinfeld's puffy shirt. And on the right side is one of Robert's outfits as a policeman, Patty's short skirt from the PT&A episode, and Ray's shirt that he's wearing when he introduces the last episode. Yes, absolutely, I would consider going down there. Whose dog was Shamsky's in real life? No, so Shamsky's dog was provided by, again, there's very strict rules. So it's provided by a dog for your sitcom service, whatever that is called. Yeah. Yes, Noah. This is all your fault, Frank. Yeah, that was a great moment. This is all your fault, Frank. Great quote. When did you get those? Yeah. And by the way, whoever can if it might not be the case that the fork and spoon were switched, but if anybody does remember that would be great. Hello, Angel Tarpov. Hey, Tom, I think you remember me. I'm a musician, cellist, and a composer, and even ask you about your opinion about the music industry. Now I want to ask you, what do you think about Carol's Second Act? I've never seen Carol's Second Act. For those of you that don't know, that was a show that Patty Heaton was in that got, I think they did one season. So I never saw it. Let me know, did you like Carol's Second Act? Was it okay? A lot of questions about a reboot. So the only reboot that I know of that's even possible is Phil and the cast sitting around, much like the Friends reunion, and talking about clips, etc. That is definitely possible. Do Windlepoons, do any of the ELR team ST? I'm assuming you didn't finish that question. Let me see. I enjoy your... Hello, Heidi in Ireland. Did you answer where you are in Ireland? For the other, whoever asked that question. I enjoy your pictures on your own account. You don't seem to have a photography genre, or do you? I don't know what that means. Are you saying, do I specialize in anything? No. People, food, stuff like that. I'd say the least is like, well, I guess, yeah. I was going to say the least is architecture, but I do enjoy taking pictures of everything. Yes. You and Ray did an excellent with that script. Very funny episode. That the PTA you're talking about. So let me. What are the hours like on Everest Raymond? They were very civilized. You would show up to work at 10 a.m. You go to a production office. There would be an announcement made that you had to go to the writer's room. So Lou Schneider or one of the people at the front desk would say, on this old intercom system, they would say, whenever, 10:15, writers to the writer's room, writers to the writer's room, and then we would all leave our individual office and walk into the writer's room. And then Phil we'd have a script that we're working on, or we'd be breaking stories or something like that. But basically, we then sat in that writer's room from 10 whatever a.m. until 6 p.m., eating lunch in the room usually, and the only time we would leave is to go to a run-through on stage or a table read or something like that on stage. And stage was stage 5 from season 2 to the end of the series on the Warner Brothers lot. So the production office was here, and at the furthest point of the lot was stage 5. And so we would have to walk down to the stage or ride our bikes down to the stage or take a golf cart down to the stage, etc. So that was our day. Our day was, and then we would leave. I think the latest we would stay would be 7 p.m., but usually we'd be gone by 6 p.m., and that's kind of unheard of in the industry, but it's because Phil was so organized and knew what he wanted, and he was also like, unless we have a life, unless you writers have a life to lead, we need to write about real life, so have a life. And that is kind of what he picked up from Carl Reiner, who did the Dick Van Dyke Show. Hello, Trish. We should have an ELR, Karen, we should have an ELR quiz night. I wonder if it's ever been a specialist subject on Mastermind. Interesting. That's a great idea. Carol's second act was hilarious, been in enough hospitals to appreciate the humor. Nice. I asked because I'm nosy and I love Ireland. Okay. Very nice. Why isn't Raymond on TBS anymore? Chances are it's not on TBS because they sold it. So it's only about money. That's all that happens. So if TBS signs a contract that they have it for 2 years, and then that 2 years is up, and they're not willing to pay whatever HBO or whoever controls it wants to charge, then it goes somewhere else. So that's really why that happens. It goes away. Gil, couldn't a new fork and spoon have been made in a workshop? Yes, that is an excellent point. So that's a great question, Gil. So when we have Donna Stamps, who is set decorator, is her title, I believe, she will have that answer. So it'll be, and again, there's a lot of moving parts going on. So, for example, when you see the Deborah Golfing, Fun with Deborah episode is the official title, they built an entire putting green on our stage. That putting green is where Frank and Marie's kitchen and living room usually are, and where the hospital was in that last photo. So there's a lot of stuff going on. So again, I'm not sure exactly what went down, but the show's going. So if Donna's like, oh, Frank and Marie's kitchen set next week, okay, let's just get that from props. Wait, this is a different size. Okay, we'll just go with it. So that it could have been as simple as that. So it wasn't necessarily that in June she realizes they can't get it, and now 4 months later we have to have it, and so she has time to make it. So is there an ELR cookbook with Marie's recipes And Deborah's lemon chicken, yeah. So I know that Doris put recipes in her book. So, yeah, the lemon chicken, by the way, Phil just thought that's a funny sounding name. Let's see, little Z, you're in, I can't tell. You have ELR reruns every morning, which is enjoyable to watch over and over again. You are in the UK, is that correct? Little Z, .3. It's hard for me to see the flag. Deborah made a birthday cake once. Oh, yeah, that's right. And Marie insulted her. Yes, and a cookbook. So I will tell you, when we sat down to write, before we made this book, Every Brothers Raymond, there's the back cover. That's the cast at Curtain Call. So, and for those of you, and again, there's a photo I took of, right, that episode, Tissues. Okay. So when we sat down with HBO before this book was published, 2 years before this was published, they had all kinds of ideas. They said, we met with somebody who ran a company and they were called a book packager. So they had done Sex in the City, etc. And they said, okay, we want to make up the history of the whole family. But Phil was like, I don't really, like we wrote the characters. We don't want some outside writer just randomly making it up. So that went away. Then there were a couple of other ideas, and then Phil was like, I really want to do this idea, and I'll tell this story at length another time, this idea that I had pitched. I had done a layout that I just showed you similar to that. And Phil was like, yes, let's try and do that. So the idea of a recipe book is great. But I don't know, that's a tricky thing, because if you're going to make a book, it's a lot of work, and I don't know the powers that be. It's a good idea. I just don't know how the powers that be would respond. Hi, Tom. How did you guys come up? This is from Kathy. Hello, Kathy. Hi, Tom. How did you come up with the idea for the episode She's the One? It was just on again, and it's so funny. Okay, She's the One is where Ray sees the Robert's date eating the fly. So I've told this story, but I will tell you briefly again. The genesis of that was Ray's brother in real life met a girl, went back to her apartment, and it was filled with snakes. And he, in real life, was freaked out by it, as you would be, and he went out the window and escaped down a fire escape. And the woman was a little bit off, let's say. Independently, about 6 months before Ray's brother told him that story, Ray, Kevin, James, and I were in the writer's room of Raymond trying to think of a movie. And we sat there for a week, and we brainstormed. When we watched movies, we brainstormed, and we came up with no movie. But there were elements that were funny that we came up with, and we were laughing. And Ray was saying, what if I see your girlfriend eat a fly? And it was just a random statement. So then, when Richard, who that real-life story happened, we combined that with frog instead of snake, and then the eating of the fly. And so that moment is so good when Ray sees it and nobody else sees it, because you have to convince somebody that he just saw somebody eating a fly. So that's the Cliff Notes. Crash through the wall, yes. How long did it take to do the set back again for the example after Ray and Frank crashed through the wall? That was about 20 minutes. That was a miracle. The set decorators and the set, I forget what they're called. I forget what their union title is. But the guys that are in charge of the set did a miracle by putting that together in 20 minutes. So we did it once the day before, and they reassembled it without a live audience, and then we did it in front of a live audience. These are great questions, by the way. Great questions. In the episode Lights Out, where was the outdoor scene with the snow filmed? What is the episode Lights Out, Leo? I don't know that title. Do the actors get to pick their clothes for the characters? Not really. They can chime in, but the wardrobe department gets them, and Phil is like, hey, I want, so let's assume that you have a beautiful star named Patty Heaton. She can't look beautiful all the time and dress stunningly because she's a put-upon housewife. So you have to dress them to character. Now, having said that, Patty, can be like, I like this or I like that, within reason. And I'll post some pictures. Do you guys want to see Patty in the dressing room with Simon Took trying on some clothes? I do have those things. Let me scroll back. How long did it take to do the set? Yes. Karen, did you use the same group of writers throughout all the seasons? So one of the things about Raymond and the reason it's so consistent is there were 7 of us that were there from the beginning to the end. And then there were others that came and went. So there were, Phil and Ray were the consistent voice throughout the series, and then 7 of the writers. So it really helps, and I think a lot of times when you see a series that you really love and it gets bad or is not as good, a lot of times it's because the showrunner, the head writer, gets a deal for $100 million or $20 million, and a network says, hey, person who made this hit show, I'm going to give you $20 million to leave that show and develop another show. And so then that voice goes away. And so that didn't happen on Everose Raymond, and I think that's why you can watch all the way to the end, and some of the best episodes are the last season of the show. But let's see this. Snow Day, maybe? Snow Day. I have never heard Liza, I think it was called Snow Day. Yes, Snow Day. Yes, I'd have to look at that. Snow Day is an episode, yeah. Frank in Korea series. Any origin series considered? Yeah, well, that would be tough now, but I guess we could do it. The fire, yes. Ray set fire to the kitchen, yes. So the fire was exceptional. So Lisa mentioned that. I thought I posted pictures, but I will if I didn't. Okay, so there was a gas line that was on the counter that you couldn't see, and I zoomed in on it. I know I did this, but I don't know if I posted it yet. And so that gas line, the special effects guys were there. There were fire guys on stage, and they would turn up the flame and get it exactly to where they wanted it to be for the live audience. So it was a very, very controlled. Yeah, there's 200 people in the audience, so they're not going to take risks with a fire on a stage. Yeah. Scrolling through. Great question, by the way. And remind me if I owe you. I think I still owe you pictures of the softball team that Stacy was talking about. Let me see. Painting ass anymore. You clearly see cracking up. Left in their purpose. Great question. Okay, I recently watched the Italy episode in the part where Ray yells, "I won't be a pain in the ass anymore." To anyone anymore. You can see Patty cracking up. Was that left in on purpose? I will ask Phil. You guys will watch me as I ask Phil. Even just going back to the writing thing, an outside writer, so there's a writer's guild that we have to belong to when you write on a network show. So you have to have, I believe it's one outside script, and I don't know why. I think it's a good thing because then it forces a show to allow an outside writer to have a script on a show. Otherwise, there'd be no reason for them to go, hey, let's have somebody else write it. No matter how good of a writer is from the outside, they don't have the voices in their head as good as Phil and the other writers. So, for example, Marie's vision was written by an Emmy-winning writer, Jay Kogan, who's great, a great guy and very funny, etc. But his script still has to get a rewrite, still gets tweaked by the the writer. So you really have to understand the show, and there's no substitute for having those characters' voices. And for you, who you've been watching the show now for 25 years, you know the voices of the characters. So Does the ELR get shown in the U.S.? Yes. So does ELR get shown still in the U.S.? Would you sit and watch it, and do you still find it funny? Yes. So I find it very funny, and I don't. I see clips of it more. But Ray recently, and we'll talk about this when Anna, maybe when Phil's on next time. Ray recently said he just watched 9 episodes in a row and how funny he thought it was. Can we ask Phil to come on again? Yes, I saw him last night. I asked him as well. Leo, you recently saw Phil on an interview, and he said there was a time when the power of the studio went out when filming an episode. Do you recall this? The power went out while filming an episode. I don't. I mean, we wrote that into a script called Checkbook where the power goes out, but I don't remember the power going out. No. And I would remember that. I was there, so we'll have to ask Phil. The power went out. Yeah, that would be very unusual because A, we don't have power outages so much in Los Angeles, and they might have a backup generator, but I don't know, at Warner Brothers for the stages. Bada bing, bada boom. I purchased the show through Apple TV, but it has been edited so much some jokes don't even make sense anymore. This is a witch story. This is from a witch story online. Hello. Thank you for your question. I know just because I know the show by heart. Disappointing. Oh, has anybody else experienced that? Buying the show on Apple TV and finding that it's been edited a lot. So I think, I don't know if Peacock is editing. I know somebody wrote about that. But I think Amazon Prime, they're the complete episodes. The Code of the Caribou. Yes. I think that was just somebody in the writer's room. The Code of the Caribou. Yeah. It is hard. Is it hard to tape in another location like Italy, or is it like any other location? Yeah. So for those of you that haven't watched before or not, our show, like any multi-camera sitcom, like Friends, like Seinfeld, is filmed. For our case, it's filmed because it's film. It was filmed on a soundstage. So it's controlled. Everything is controlled, and it's super rehearsed. When you went to Italy, you become a single camera like a movie. So yes, it's a much different. It's just completely different animal. And the beauty of a sitcom on a stage is it's done like a play. So you watch them acting, and there are 4 cameras that are capturing everything. When you're doing a single camera, the process is so slow that you're shooting. Let's say there's a conversation between 2 people. This person's talking. Well, there's a camera over here shooting this person talking. So they act out the whole scene, and the camera's only capturing this side. Then the cameras and everything has to switch around. Same conversation happens. They're just shooting this person. Exact same conversation happens again. Then the exact same conversation happens again, and there's a 2-shot that they film. So it takes 3 times as long to film it. So that's a big difference. Who owns the rights to the show now? HBO does. Yes, Amy Aquino, the cookie lady. Yes, I've been texting with her. We'll have her on. There's no edits on iTunes. Thank you, Monique. Peggy would be great. Yes, I love Peggy. Amazon is unedited. Thank you, Gil. Channel 4, some jokes. Yeah, so Channel 4, I understand in England that makes sense because it's on early in the morning. Are you asking about the Big Fork and Spoon changing from the big black ones, season 1, the smaller ones, or when they switched from fork and spoon to spoon and fork? Oh, yes, that's what I'm looking for. When did they switch from fork and spoon to spoon and fork? Was it the beginning of season 4? So are you telling me if I go into my archives right now and I pull up the last episode of season 3 and the first episode of season 4, they will be reversed? That would be great. We'll see. Let me here, I'm randomly this for everybody. This is a little treat just because I had pulled them. So this is a table read. Let's see, does it say? Yes. So this is a table read version of script. I think it's backwards for you guys. This is for Ashley also. Ashley is in wardrobe department. This has so this is a green cover and a green back. So when you write a script, if I would write a script, the writer's assistant would go, Tom, what color do you want the cover? And it's a decision that I really could care less about at the time. I'm also colorblind, which makes it not as interesting to me. So this is the beginning of the week. So when you see a table read, when you see photos of them at the table, there is no consistent color. It's always a different color. So sometimes green, sometimes yellow, sometimes bright something. Now, because this is Ashley's, there should be, now this, what episode is this? I Wish I Were Gus. Okay, so this is really early on. So because this is early on, here we go, never before seen in public, Ray, Patty, these are great, priceless Polaroids that have never been, I've never even seen them. So they're backstage getting ready to be introduced, is where they are. And you can see Patty there. Give me a thumbs up if you're enjoying the never before seen photos. So here we go. This is the tag. There is Patty and Ray. Wow, look how this is really early on. Let me see how close I can get and it stays focused. Yes, and there it says tag. So for those of you watching, that would have been the last scene of I Wish I Were Gus. And here is a photo of Peter Boyle. So if you watch that episode, if you knew that episode, this is really gold here. Let me see a few more. Here is there is Patty, and there is Patty. So so in those days, there was no such thing as the iPhone. So the wardrobe person would come out, they'd have this big Polaroid camera hanging around the neck, and they would go flashing, and they would take a picture. So there's a lot of pictures in here. I know that I'm standing next to Ray in a bunch of pictures, and let's see, this is, yes, Brad goofing around. Yes, so here's, I don't know, that's a second. There's, is that Patty? Yes. So that's also, it says tag, which is odd because it's a different outfit. Okay. I hope you guys are enjoying these as much as I am, because it's, now, somebody has asked in the past about Doris's makeup season 1, and it does look very white there. So there's, yep. So it looks oddly, so for those of you that didn't watch, Erin Kruger, who was nominated for an Oscar and is very successful, she joined us, and we'll have to ask her next time because somebody else has pointed out. Okay, this is the last one I'm going to show. Here is never before seen Jean Stapleton, Edith Bunker from All in the Family, if you've never seen that, in her wardrobe. Wow, that is a rare photo. I know that I've never seen it. I'm absolutely sure Phil and nobody else has seen it other than the wardrobe department. Okay, so that was a peek inside of I Wish I Were Gus table read, because the front is yellow. I mean, the front is green, table draft, it says. And then you see there's the shooting draft. Okay, and it was filmed August 26, 1996. So, really, that is gold right there. All right, I have to wrap it up. Let me go through some questions, what I've missed. Let's see. Yes, she played Marie's sister, who she wasn't talking to. Great. You love that. Yes. Sorry, that muted for some reason. I will check here and see if I can find the fork and spoon. Can you guys hear me again now? I hope. Yes, good. Not sure how that could have happened. All right. So the what I was saying is I will check to see if I can find the mystery of that fork and spoon thing. You guys, I assume, heard all of that when I was showing you Ashley Stoyer's thing. And we will have a guest next week. And thank you so much, everybody. These questions are great. These are always great. And I will see you next week with more questions. I'll post a bunch of pictures. And I will see you all. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy your freedom in England from masks, etc. All right. I will see all of you next week. Thank you.